I was wondering, what is your view on the Trump brinkmanship towards Venezuela?
Yeah, well, I'm not supportive of it at all. I think that this effort potentially to try to trigger regime change is very dangerous. We've seen this happen in other parts of the world, particularly in Iraq. It never works out. And the last thing that we need is another failed war. As a matter of fact, President Trump promised as candidate Trump, no more foreign wars. And
so uncharismatic, he's going to make me support invading Venezuela. Jesus Christ. Riveting stuff. Yeah, this is like, there's just no emotion. Like, we're talking about brinksmanship. We're talking about potentially starting a war here, like a real, actual capital W war. No, I don't know, emphasis? Want to gun up the language a little bit, maybe?
He's doing the exact opposite by potentially triggering.
Donald Trump is actually betraying a campaign promise. That's great, man. It would be a fucking war.
One, as it relates to Venezuela. I don't support the Maduro regime,
but
there are bad actors all across the world. And we've got a lot of problems here in this country that we need to resolve in order to make sure that, you know, people have the ability to provide for themselves and their families. Far too many people, like literally middle-class people, are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck, cannot thrive, and can barely survive. Let's work on that problem.
Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. Meanwhile,
just a blockade. Not going to let anybody going through that shouldn't be going through. You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil from not that long ago, and we want it back. But they took it. They illegally took it.
I can't believe we're doing war for oil again, man. I can't believe we're going back. Time is a flat circle. Trump and Stephen Miller have been looking for war for a while. They were looking at Mexican cartels first. Yeah, I think they're throwing darts at the wall and seeing what sticks, you know? They want a war because of course they do. But who they war against doesn't actually matter that much. They were considering it with Iran, but Trump really wanted the narrative that he brought peace to the Middle East for the first time in 3,000 years. We're literally doing piracy, dude. Yeah, we're saying we're embargoing Venezuela right now. Or sorry, not embargoing, we're blockading Venezuela. Stephen Miller's hardline Mexico strategy morphed into deadly boat strikes. Yay. They pivoted to Venezuela. A trio of legal documents and directives have subsequently authorized an unorthodox lethal campaign. Unorthodox. I still really don't understand what the long-term goal is here, because I do not think we could actually do a land invasion of Venezuela. It would be so difficult to do. Land invasions take so much time and effort, so much preparation. There's so much that goes into them. And if you don't fuck it up, or sorry, if you do fuck it up, if you don't do that work, then you invite the potential for a mismanagement of the conflict so disastrous that no presidential administration could survive it, including this one. You know? They are doing the military morale preparation right now, but are they like, what about the logistics? What about the supply lines? You know, how many people do they plan on sending over there? The U.S. invading Venezuela would be very similar to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I mean, honestly, yeah. I think that would be a pretty easy direct comparison, as in a desperate fascist administration really wants like a win as the world like turns more and more against them. So they go for what seems to be an easy target, but because of mismanagement and corruption, it turns into a quagmire. Obviously, our military is much better equipped than Russia's military is. But I mean, look, we wouldn't have the issue of like tanks running out of fuel because the Vatniks are like drinking it to get drunk at night or whatever. But morale would be critically low. Nobody would want to be there.
President Trump is now taking the already boiling tension with the Venezuelan president to a new level now, ordering a, quote, total and complete blockade on sanctioned oil tankers in and out of Venezuela. He says that's going to be backed by a, quote unquote, armada of U.S. ships in the region. The specific wording of Trump's announcement may allow for more wiggle room than his blockade threat suggests, but He's definitely trying to escalate things even further. It comes after the U.S. Coast Guard seized this ship. We've been showing you this video since last week off of Venezuela's coast. The new threat is now intended to hit right at the heart of the Venezuelan economy, its massive oil reserves. The president, it appears, is also trying to turn the focus back.
I cannot overstate how much it doesn't make sense for us to invade Venezuela for their oil. It half makes sense for us to invade them to keep them from supplying oil to China. But right now, oil is at such a low price, we don't really benefit from having more oil. We have oil, and we're not dredging it. We're not digging it up right now, you know? I think that they might use oil as an excuse for this war, which is insane because it just reminds everyone of the Iraq war. But I think the real reason is just they wanted war. That's it. They just wanted a war. It could have been with Canada. It could have been with Greenland. It could have been with Mexico. It could have been with China. It could have been with Venezuela. It literally does not matter. They just want a war. And they, again, throwing everything at the board, see what sticks. This is the one right now that we're currently going for. Maybe they just fucking drop it. And a week from now, we start hearing about how Colombia has been sending narco-terrorists up north and they need to be invaded, you know?
To the Caribbean and back to his agenda, announcing a primetime speech from the White House tonight. One thing he's likely trying to turn the focus away from, that explosive Vanity Fair interview with his chief of staff, Susie Wiles. People still
or the Epstein files releasing tomorrow.
Trying to wrap their heads around what was said on the record in this lengthy series of interviews. One of the more and many eyebrow-raising things about what was said was about those strikes on alleged drug boats off the coast of Venezuela. The Trump administration has maintained that those strikes are aimed at stopping drugs from reaching the United States. But Susie Wiles says
what you said is true. Reports say oil companies don't want the war because oil prices are too low already. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They just want a war. That's it. They just want a war.
On the record now
that probably, mind you, because they expected the war to be part of a package of domestic policies intended to end democracy. Remember, they've been gunning for conflict since day one, but back during day one, they had the momentum that they could have used to start, I don't know, what do you guys think? Arresting Democrats? Think about it. If we really did declare war on the Mexican cartels and start like strafing cartel affiliated cities or whatever, you know, you'd have Democrats speaking out against it, and then Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and, you know, whatever, could start arresting Democrats, calling them, you know, saying they're guilty of treason. Like, you are providing material support and sympathy to the enemy. You are giving aid to the narco-terrorists in Mexico. Your ass is going to jail, you know? Then they effectively control Congress just for all the vacancies and so on and so on. But here's the thing. They didn't do that. They didn't do it. They had a window of time where it might have been possible for them to get away with that, but that window of time has passed. It's over. But they still want the conflict, even though they can't really use it the same way they used to be able to.
More about the country's leader saying that Trump, quote, wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle. CNN's Elena Treen is live at the White House for us this morning. About that blockade, what are you hearing?
Yeah, and what a stunning quote that was from Susie Wiles, particularly as someone who's been covering this Venezuela escalation for weeks now. I mean, to have the White House Chief of Staff say that on the record is pretty remarkable, given it's very different, Kate, from what we have heard from officials maintaining that this is all about trying to stop the flow of drugs into the U.S. But to get back to your initial question, President Trump designated Venezuela a foreign terrorist organization on Tuesday. And as you mentioned, he also formally ordered a blockade of all
U.S. oil companies don't even want to return to Venezuela, even with regime change. I know. And you know how I know? Because I said that out loud twice while looking at the link you provided.
Sanctioned oil tankers that are servicing Venezuela. Now, this is a major escalation and backed, as the president argues, by a giant U.S. armada, and it puts unprecedented pressure on Nicolas Maduro and his regime. A key question, of course, is what will the real impact of this be? I think there's no question that it will hit their already very struggling economy especially hard and could threaten to actually bankrupt Venezuela. But I want to read for you some of what the president posted overnight. He said, quote, Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before, until such time as they return to the United States of America all of the oil, land, and other assets that they previously stole from us. Now, I should say, Trump incorrectly argued that they have stolen a lot of oil and resources from them. That's not necessarily true. We have reached out to
Incorrectly argued, that's sane washing.
Clarify those remarks. Venezuela and the Maduro regime is also hitting back very hard. They're arguing essentially that this is showing the real threat or real goal of the president, which they are arguing is to steal the wealth of the country. So
that's not hitting back really hard. That's a correct and accurate assessment of what the president has admitted that he's doing. Sane washing, media bias in favor of Trump, as always.
Major escalation here of what we are seeing from the president toward Venezuela.
Joining us now is CNN military analyst and retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. Appreciate you being with us.
Oh, it's good to be with you, Rosemary.
So, Colonel, on Monday night, the Pentagon struck three more alleged drug boats in the Eastern Pacific, and then...
I don't want to listen to these two. I don't want to listen to their voices. I'm really sorry. Look at this. Look at this fucking thumbnail from Fox News. This shit looks so ass. Maybe you should get AI on it.
Just breaking right now across the wires, President Trump is ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela, saying that the armada around Venezuela will only get bigger, and that the Venezuelan regime has been designated a foreign terrorist organization, crossing on all the wires coming from the Trump administration and the president himself, a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers into Venezuela as we look at some of those drug boat takeouts. That's a significant move around the country of Venezuela.
Yeah, I mean, Brett, it's incredibly disturbing.
The two chats are not integrated. The House of Upside Down. Much as I'm sure that would be fun, I'm afraid that the YouTube chat is the wall. You know, it's the barrier at the gate, and this is the inner fortress that you've breached. Hello.
Why you're seeing members of Congress on both sides of the aisle coming forward and saying, you know, we need to understand a little bit more about what the posture is and what the reasoning and rationale is. It's one of the reasons why we have, you know, checks and balances.
Remember, of course, right now that Hegseth is refusing to provide more details on these strikes, specifically with regard to like war crimes committed and what evidence he had that they were actually carrying drugs. Not that it makes a fucking difference, honestly, to be real with you. But it's like the hypocrisy, the juxtaposition of them like videotaping all of these war crimes and bragging about them on social media, but then going like, well, hold on, this is all top secret stuff. We don't want to share it with you.
And why the legislative branch is so involved when there is a decision to go to you know, potentially invade or, you know, even potentially go to war with another country. So lots of questions here. I think that President Trump, I know he's speaking to the country tomorrow night, addressing the nation. I think it's very important that he be transparent with the American people as to why he's doing this. And
he didn't mention Venezuela at all. He just talked about Biden the entire fucking time.
You know, I think a lot of people are asking questions. Are we going to actually go into war with Venezuela? More questions here than we have answers.
Yeah, Ari, you know, the president is saying, and maybe tomorrow night in his primetime address, which you'll see here on Fox, he's going to get into this, some of the specifics. It's not that we don't hear from this president a lot. We hear from him a lot on a lot of moves, but tonight he's saying this blockade, I mean, it's a significant move.
Yeah, I gotta say, they don't seem too hyped about it, huh? I mean, we're over here on Fox. I guess, you think they're wondering how far the ride goes? They're like, okay, Mr. President, come on.
Most of the American people, everything vis-a-vis Venezuela is unexplained. I don't think the American people understand or know, have probably never even heard of him for the most part, Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, and what's wrong with him? What's our beef with him? What's our beef with Venezuela? President Trump hasn't explained it thoughtfully to the American people, so it's a lot of tough, knee-jerk action.
They're literally like asking him to give them an excuse to support him, you know? They're like, Mr. President, we're all in favor of war crimes and illegal wars, okay? But you need to, like, sell it to us better. Yeah, give us the line to work with, because right now we don't have a lot to go off of.
Action that's pretty good against drugs. I support it. the action against the tankers. In most cases, well, in the case previously, that was under a warrant, and that tanker was an unauthorized tanker. It wasn't even flagged, which is a violation of international law. So he has good reasons, but he's not explaining them. And I think if he wants the support of the American people for another foreign venture, he needs to explain it.
Yeah, Meredith.
Honestly, the fact that Fox News is being a bit tentative with it does give me a kind of hope, you know? That's kind of nice. Anyway, to my knowledge, the most recent update on our sort of growing tension with Venezuela is that they are now deploying the Navy to escort their oil tankers, which is like, okay. Like, I think they have every right to do that. They're literally being subject to piracy from a foreign nation, but this significantly increases the likelihood of a American military vessel coming into contact with a Venezuelan military vessel.
El día de ayer, lamentablemente, escuchamos unas delirantes declaraciones del presidente de los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica.
I don't know if I want to watch a 4-minute video that's not in English, even if it is subtitled, but we can watch a portion of it. Let me get myself out of the way over here.
Delirantes.
How big is their navy? The Venezuelan Navy stands no chance against the American Navy. It's not even close. There's like an order of magnitude in difference, both in size and in technological prowess. In all likelihood, in an actual conflict between the U.S. Navy and the Venezuelan Navy wouldn't even have the opportunity to land a shot. We would be firing missiles from so far away. I don't think they'd be able to do anything.
Cuando señaló e indicó que se establecía un supuesto bloqueo naval en las aguas del Caribe con un despliegue, como él mismo lo ha dicho, sin precedentes de su armada, de la Armada de los Estados Unidos, en espacios del Caribe. Un espacio que está dado para la cooperación, para el libre comercio, para la libre navegación. No es un espacio cerrado a los intereses de los Estados Unidos. No lo es. Y ha anunciado una cosa completamente incoherente. Completamente incoherente. Ha dicho el señor Trump que nosotros somos los ladrones, que nosotros nos hemos robado el petróleo que subyace aquí en nuestra tierra, pero que ellos dicen que les pertenece. Eso es una cosa completamente inconsistente.
Do you think there is potential for Venezuela to receive funding or arms from, like, Russia or China? No. There's no way for Russia or China. For one, Russia's not going to do anything, nor would China. But even if China wanted to, they couldn't, because we control the oceans. No, it's just Venezuela on their own, and they have no chance. The saving grace here is the fact that Venezuela is a largely, like, disorganized jungle nation, which means that any kind of, like, meaningful long-term occupation would be really difficult. Remember, if the goal is just to invade and do regime change, you still need to keep people around after the fact to secure, like, stability, to make sure that that bitch doesn't get murked like day 2 of her reign or whatever, you know? There are logistical problems here. It's not really like a military might thing.
Incoherente. La verdad ha sido develada. A confesión de partes, dirían los juristas, relevo de pruebas. Se trata ya por la vía de la fuerza, ya no de las sanciones, de las medidas coercitivas unilaterales, de el aislamiento político, diplomático, comunicacional, el terrorismo psicológico. Ya no es por esa vía, sino se ha acudido a la fuerza, a la violencia. Y quienes acuden a la fuerza y a la violencia están perdidos. Están perdidos. Es la herramienta de aquellos que no tienen la razón, la fuerza. Y los Estados Unidos está demostrando una radical, una diáfana desesperación.
It's crazy how much more coherent he is than literally any person in American government right now.
En el manejo de su política exterior, particularmente con Venezuela. La Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana rechaza rotundamente las delirantes declaraciones emitidas ayer martes 16 de diciembre de los Corrientes, en las cuales de manera insolente amenaza a nuestra nación con acciones armadas y ordena un supuesto bloqueo naval total para confiscar buques que transporten petróleo venezolano. Hecho este que comporta un vulgar acto de piratería. Las acusaciones formuladas resultan fantasiosas e incoherentes, pues insólitamente señalan...
Why is it crazy? Do you think only Western leaders can be saying, okay, woke lord, trying to out-woke me? No, it's because he's the fucking defense minister of an authoritarian, like, basically junta, and a narco state, okay? Usually you would expect, I mean, I guess in my mind, I guess I'd imagine a little bit more coherence from the American government, but obviously those times are well past, you know.
Que les hemos robado petróleo, tierras y otros activos, lo cual es completamente falso y desenmascara la inverosímil narrativa del combate al narcoterrorismo.
Oh, so defense ministers of a junta can't be coherent?
Yeah. Intenciones planeadas desde el inicio de la escalada belicista a mediados de este año, que tal como lo ha señalado reiteradamente el ciudadano Nicolás Maduro Moros, presidente constitucional de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela, no son otras que forzar un cambio de régimen en nuestro país y apoderarse groseramente de su petróleo y demás recursos naturales estratégicos. Todo es por petróleo.
Well, I guess we will see. I guess we will see. Spooky stuff. I don't know if we're going to deploy. I don't know if we would. The Venezuelan Navy only has one frigate, lol. Listen, we don't need to power scale, okay? That's not what we're here for. Why is it whenever America picks a fight with someone, it's always some mountainous, hard-terrain country? Why not somebody easy like France? I don't know. You should go to West Point. You should sign up with the DoD, okay? Maybe you'll be able to change policy. To be fair, Iraq was pretty flat. Well, clearly not flat enough, but yeah.